You're plugged in to The Real Life Show with your host, Malichi Male.
And co-host, Catherine Martins.
Where real life issues meet real life solutions. Problems are not solitary things. Someone has been through what you're going through. So let's talk about real life.
What's up? What's up? This is Malichi Male and
Chelsea Hillier.
Chelsea Hillier. Why do you choose now to step in?
Yeah, so I chose this time for a reason. So first of all, I was completely convinced that I would never ever run for public office. I just wanted to have a nice, quiet life and raise my children, and but of course it's a little bit in my blood, in my genes, to do this kind of thing. So over the last 18 months, 19 months, obviously we have seen this country that we live in completely change. We've seen a complete violation of our rights, and that continues to escalate. So for the last year and a half, I've been working with No More Lockdowns, and you know, as a grassroots sort of activist in that organization, and when it seemed like there was going to be an election called, I thought, okay, well, you know, now's the time to actually put action to words, right? Correct. And we need to have people involved in politics, and especially in this election, who are willing to stand up and speak out against what's been going on for the last 18 months. So now I am here running for the People's Party of Canada in Elgin, Middlesex, London.
Okay. So now you stated that you're part of No More Lockdowns,
Yes.
right? So it's a two-part question. What is exactly No More Lockdowns? And at the same time, why are you so gun-ho and strong about the lockdowns?
Sure. So No More Lockdowns is an organization that was started by my father last year. Him and I were having all of these discussions about what was going on. I'll tell you this story, okay?
Okay.
So in February 2020, I was spending time in my car, driving my kids to school, picking them up, and I was listening to CBC radio, and they start talking about this deadly virus that has arrived in China, and you know, I'm hearing this every day, and then they start talking about how China has locked down the entire province, millions of people locked down in their homes, and I could hear the language changing a little bit every single day about how they were talking about it, and I went to my dad and I said, Dad, if this gets here, they're going to lock us down. And he said, no, they can't lock us down. And I said, well, it sounds like they're going to. And he said, well, they can't. And I said, well, why can't they? And he said, well, because we have a constitution and we have a charter of rights and freedoms, unlike communist China, right? And so we have rights, they are inalienable, and we are protected by those rights. And I said, okay, well, you know, that gives me heart. I will take hope in that. But I'm listening to this and it's sounding pretty bad. And he's right. If we have a constitution and a charter of rights and freedoms that stands, then they can't lock us down.
Correct.
But they did anyway. And that's a pretty scary thing. That our government has decided that they can totally disregard the protections that are in place for you and for me and for all Canadians. Those rights are in place to protect us from our government. That's why we have those rights. And our government has decided this last 18 months that they no longer have to abide by those.
Wow.
And so you know, I'm sort of answering both of your questions at once. So anyway, No More Lockdowns is a grassroots organization that aims to empower everyday Canadians to speak up, stand out, and hold our government to account. And it really is about empowering people, because so many people have felt completely shut down and disempowered this year. And we believe that the only way we're going to end all of this nonsense is when Canadians stand up.
Now, with the lockdowns, right? There's two narratives, right? The first narrative is we need to do it, or else people are dying, right? People are extremely dying. The other narrative is over 3 million jobs that were lost,
Yes.
and a lot of families have suffered. Small businesses
Yes.
are almost no longer in existence, right? Unless you got a ton of money waiting
Yeah.
back. How do you balance the two between safety and just regular man or woman just hustling and working for their family?
So there's something that we have seen happen, which is we have slid we have slid into this narrative that is everything we do needs to be for the collective good, right? For the common good. And so when you talk about people losing their businesses and not being able to feed their families or pay their mortgages or their rent, that doesn't matter. Your business was shut down.
Correct.
You lost an awful lot of income and and investment as well, because the time and money that you've already invested into your business, and then to lose that doesn't matter. Your suffering does not matter when it's framed by the collective good. And so the collective good is, I ask people, well, how do you define what the collective good is? Because only I can decide what's good and right for my life, and only you can decide what's good and right for your life. So then how do we determine what the collective good is? And the only thing that the collective good is the total degradation of the individual.
Okay.
Right? So now when we talk about health and safety, of course we want people to be healthy and safe. Of course. But Canadians already are good people who look out for the health and safety and well-being of their friends, families, neighbors, and so this really is something that just absolutely drove me crazy this entire year and a half. You as a business owner, I'm sure that the health and safety and wellness of your staff and of your customers is top of mind.
Absolutely.
Because if you don't look after those things, then your business is going to die.
Business doesn't exist,
right?
Correct.
Same with this whole narrative around restaurants and restaurants being really dangerous. Well, restaurants are one of it's probably the safest place to eat. It's probably safer than your own kitchen or dining room, because the people who work in the restaurants have food handler certificates. We always wash, sanitize everything. Tables are washed between every customer. All the dishes are sanitized. They are safe places to go. And same thing, just like your business, if a restaurant doesn't look after the health, safety, and well-being of their customers, then they don't have a business anymore.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
So it's this notion that all of a sudden, Canadians are bad and we're not looking out for the interests of others. That's not who we are. As Canadians, we are good, loving, kind people who want other people to be happy, healthy, and safe.
Wow. You know what? Sitting here talking to you, you're actually the first politician that I actually felt like they're not a politician. They're a regular human being,
Yes.
right? And, I think that's what we have to concentrate on and get out of the political mind frame and just be real, right?
Yes.
And to me, I see that, right? And the question I have is that why aren't other politicians more real? I'm not talking to a politician. I'm talking to Chelsea right now, right? So why are other politicians afraid to show that vulnerability and humanity to and the realness?
Well, it's a good question, and I don't know that I have the answer to that, but I think that there's a couple of things that happen or that have happened in our society. So one is party politics. Party politics are devastating. Most people don't understand that, when we talk about a political party, we are not talking about the elected members of that party. There is a full apparatus, it's like its own bureaucracy behind all of these elected members.
Okay.
And these people are unelected and unaccountable. Most people don't know who they are, will never know who they are. And they're the ones who set the priorities for platforms and policies. And then if you decide that you're going to throw your name into the hat or into the ring and run for one of those parties, you have to abide by party doctrine. So that's part of it. I think the other part of it is that a lot of politicians, all politicians are just normal people, of course. But how do I say this nicely? Okay, so no, I'm going to be really nice because I am a nice, loving person, truly. Okay, so I think that there is a sense among politicians that, first of all, they maybe see themselves as fraudulent, like they don't necessarily belong where they are.
Okay.
And so they must protect and fortify themselves against that sort of fraud they feel that they're perpetrating. So in order to protect and fortify themselves, they abide by party doctrine, and that sort of protects them. I think there's another thing that's happened where us as a society, we start to see politicians as like other beings. And people who hold elected office really enjoy this, right? It like really makes them feel big and important, and all of that stuff. It feeds their ego, right?
Correct.
And so there is a benefit to them carrying on with this facade of being don't something bigger or something more important than just the everyday person.
Correct.
But I don't buy into any of that nonsense. If you put your hat into the ring to run for elected office, your priority must be the people and not yourself. Otherwise, you have no business being in politics. But us as Canadians, as everyday Canadians, we need to start holding our representatives to account on that regard too. They're not deities. They're not even all that special.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we need to start reminding them of that.
So do you think that maybe in the beginning when they got into politics that everything was pure, everything was genuine, but then they realized how the whole system works, and they decided to I guess play along with with whatever organization whatever party they're at, just so just to stay on this hierarchy, right?
Well, I think really a lot, I don't know if it's most, but a lot of people get into politics because they think that they want to make positive change in this country. But that's not how politics is done in this country, or in this province. So if you don't toe the party line, then you get kicked out of caucus. And if you get kicked out of caucus, then you lose a lot of the benefits that are provided to you if you're part of the party. So, I could get into the nitty gritty, but as an example, if you get kicked out of a caucus, then you become an independent member.
Okay.
And as an independent member, you are not allowed to fundraise.
Oh.
Yes. You can only fundraise during the election cycle.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And there's other monetary reasons that you would want to stay in a party. And so there's also status, that comes with being in a party. As an independent member, you lose that sort of social status, right? And the likelihood, well, I don't know if this holds true anymore, but the likelihood of being elected as an independent member is basically zero.
Yeah.
So if you want to maintain your job,
correct. Correct.
Then you play along.
Okay. Now, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I believe your dad was a part of the
That's right.
conservative,
Yes.
and then he decided to go.
Well, they kicked him out.
They kicked him out.
Yeah. So he got kicked out of Doug Ford's caucus.
Okay.
My dad and Doug Ford had some problems getting along.
Okay.
For ages leading up to that happening.
Okay.
And so he got kicked out and lost some of that status, but he retained his dignity. And I think that this is maybe part of what's missing in politics is dignity and integrity.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
I know for a fact that there are many people sitting in Doug Ford's caucus right now here in Ontario who fundamentally disagree with what they're doing as a government. But they're not saying anything.
It's too much perks.
Too many privileges.
Too many privileges. So you stand up for all of this. Like you don't care about the privileges.
I don't care. You know, like I want to be the member of parliament for Elgin Middlesex London.
Yeah.
Because I believe that the people in this riding deserve someone who actually wants to speak for them. You know, but I am in no way doing this for myself. This is. Well, I mean, you know, you see the hate that I get and you know, the nonsense that comes with this. So yeah, I want this, but I don't want this for myself. I want this for the people, right?
Wow, that's deep, man. Because honestly, whenever I hear anybody talk in government office, they never relate it back to the people. They never, you know, 3 million jobs were lost.
Yes.
3 million jobs.
It's tragic.
Like, I don't know what to say, you know. It was just one of those crazy things where it's like I looked around and the whole of downtown St. Thomas, I just seen closed businesses, abandoned buildings.
Yes.
And, you know, that's one of the reasons why I try to go the opposite and say to myself, you know what, I'm going to get on my savings and try to motivate these businesses to never give up. So, you know, it's almost like a lot of people said to me it was a suicide mission. Why are you opening up stores when everybody else is closing? It was really a stance to say, you know what, I ain't going to let this beat me.
Yes.
I ain't going to let this defeat me, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, even though you're up against a giant, and right now, you know, you are up against a giant. And, you know, what do you think your chances of being elected are?
I expect to win.
Okay.
Yeah, I expect to win on Monday. People here, and I think people across the country, are tired of the establishment.
Yeah.
They are finally waking up to the fact that the government and our elected representatives do not have their best interest at heart. You know, now our government is moving into coerced vaccinations, and not just of adults so that they can maintain their jobs, but also of children so that they can play sports. Like, that is evil. That is evil.
Yeah.
and people are really awakening to this. And I'll tell you, like, for the last year and a half, the constant conversation that I had with you know, hundreds and hundreds of people was like, when are people going to wake up? When are people going to actually open their eyes and see what's going on in this country? And it seems to me that time has come. And I think that people appreciate the message that we are putting out, because it is a message to let them know that things can be done different, that they deserve representation, and that they matter. Every individual life matters. You know, how can you be angry about that message?
Absolutely. And sticking to the topic of vaccination and forced vaccination, 'cause that's a strong topic for you, right?
Yes. Your phone's hurting. Okay, that's fine.
It's all good. Yeah. Yeah, sticking to that point of vaccination and forced vaccination, I already know what your stance is on that. There was actually several numbers that came out, and there was, you know, NBC, CBC, and the accurate numbers. A couple years ago, Canada had 59,000 people that had influenza, which is a flu, right? Last year, that 59,000 that were affected by the flu dropped down significantly to 69.
Yes.
So technically, the flu disappeared.
Yes.
Like, I don't even think there's probably one case in Elgin Middlesex County of the flu. Now, I looked at those numbers and I was like, what happened? Like, what do you think your take on that is?
Well, I mean, I don't know for a fact, but you know,
just,
my we do know some things that and the CDC has already come out and said this publicly, that the PCR test that has been used to diagnose COVID cannot tell the difference between the flu and COVID.
Okay.
Because it's not actually a diagnostic tool; it's a research tool. So if you're using flawed testing methods to test for something called COVID, but it can't distinguish COVID from the flu or any other coronaviruses for that matter.
Correct.
I
guess SARS and stuff like that.
Yeah, and just the common cold even.
Yeah.
You know? So they just labeled everything as COVID and the flu disappears. Right?
Yeah.
So
Wow.
yeah. And then for forced vaccinations, I mean, or coerced vaccinations, coerced, like you know, they're not holding you down and putting a needle in your arm, right?
Okay, yeah.
But they're making your life almost impossible if you don't submit.
Correct. Okay.
And that's a terrible thing when we no longer have a right to choose what happens to our own bodies. That's a pretty dark thought. You know, because if we all submit to this and we say, and like, listen, if you want to get the vaccine, go get the vaccine. 100%, it's your choice to do so. But if you're getting the vaccine and you really don't want to, but you're being threatened with job loss if you don't do it, that is a forced medical intervention. You know, our bodily autonomy is like, it's all we have.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if we give that away to the government, I would say that there are dark days ahead.
Yeah. So you're definitely not against vaccination. You're just saying, hey, just give me the opportunity to choose if I want it or not, or if my kids want it or not, or whatever. Right?
And like, you know, I have, I tell everyone, like, I don't discuss my own vaccination status. It's not, you know, and no one should. You know, it is no one's business whether you're vaccinated or not.
Correct.
You have no obligation to disclose that to anyone. But like, I have volunteers who are fully vaccinated working on my campaign. You know, I have friends and family who are vaccinated and who stand behind what we're doing completely, because they understand that, you know, that the choice, like the fundamental choice to choose what goes into your body should stay with you and you alone. And you know, a segregated society based on vaccination status is horrifying. I mean, a segregated society is horrifying no matter what.
Correct.
And especially when it's coming from the government saying, like, we are forcing segregation on this society. That's awful.
And that's actually what's happening, because it's like it's causing a division between family members, between husband and wife, between best friends, with the topic of vaccination and non-vaccination. And I think that's sad, because it's like one thing could destroy a complete relationship, right? Especially when my personal take is that it's nobody's business what you want to choose.
Well, and you as a business owner, like, as of middle of next week in Ontario, you as a business owner are supposed to check people's vaccination status when they come into your store.
Correct.
Like,
correct. Like, it's like, you know, it's tough. I'll tell you why that's super tough, because it's like, you know, so should I refuse anybody that's not vaccinated? Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's already COVID. Everything is messed up already. You know what I mean? Like, the sales have gone down, businesses have dropped. So now you're going to segregate. I'm never against any type of segregation whatsoever, shape or form. It's up to you. If you're vaccinated, if you are not, you're a human being. I'm going to treat you like a human being.
That's right.
That has nothing to do with me. And simply, I don't care. You know what I mean? I don't want to ask you. Because to me, it's almost, you know, I'm entering a state where, like, it's almost like I have power over you, you know, because if you're not, I could tell you, you can't do this. If you are, you could do this. And that's not for me. That's not for me. I think that's what God's designed to do, right? So it's very tough. And
I should, you know what, and I should correct my statement. I think retail is not being affected by the vaccine passport as of next week. But you know that
Eventually.
that's the path that we're on.
Eventually.
Right?
Yeah.
So, and people will, I've had lots of people say like, oh, well, why are you even talking about this stuff? Like, this is a provincial matter, not a federal matter. And I'm running for the federal seat.
Correct.
Well, so this election is, like, if I'm elected on Monday, I will have been given a mandate by the people of Elgin, Middlesex, London that says we are done with this COVID nonsense. We're done with it. And so it is my job then to represent those concerns and those voices.
Hold on a second. So
yes.
I don't want to just interrupt you. So
no, that's okay.
If you
Yeah.
win, you're gonna do what?
Okay, so if I win, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna say the people of Elgin, Middlesex, London have voted.
Yeah.
They've had their voice heard, and those voices say we are done with COVID. So then what do I do? Okay, because I can't just change everything overnight, right? But I can certainly say to our provincial member here that we need to turn this ship around, right? And I can certainly go to the municipalities and say, municipalities who were the first ones to implement mask mandates, say you guys are acting in absolute contravention of what the people here want. Okay, and then the other thing, the reason why I say that all of this really does fall under federal jurisdiction is because the rules and mandates that have been implemented are in direct contravention of our Constitution and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms. And our Constitution and our Charter of Rights and Freedoms are federal jurisdiction. Okay? So me as a federal politician, I need to go to my provincial member here and to the municipalities and say, you guys are breaking the law. You are absolutely breaking the law. So let's turn it around. And if they come to you, Malichi, and say, you need to shut your business down again, then you call me up.
Oh yeah.
And I come and stand at your store.
Yeah.
And I tell the police and bylaw.
Yeah.
How's it going?
What's up, man?
To, like, they can come for me. They can come for me. Leave you alone. Your business is going to stay open. Come for me. I'm ready to do that for the business owners out here, for the churches out here, for all of the people who are having their lives completely devastated by what these corrupt politicians and bureaucrats are doing.
What more can I say after
I don't know.
What more can I say? You know what I mean? Like, you guys heard it. If you stand with Chelsea in her belief system, you know what to do. PPC. If you don't, you know what to do. Liberal, ND, whatever.
Yeah.
Whatever you stand for, make sure you vote, because if you don't vote, you can't say anything.
And we have an opportunity to vote for people who believe in freedom, who believe that every individual life matters, that there's value in every individual, and vote for people who will actually stand up for you.
Okay. There